let's take a step back here initially. I mean, the sector was once one of the country's leading foreign exchange earners and highly regarded. Why the dropping down in ranks that we've seen? What went wrong?
Well, I think in the 70s, Kenya's textile industry was really efficient. It had second largest employer in the country, and after the civil servants. But, you know, we had a problem with the cotton lint board, and thereafter we had an over-liberalized environment in the 1990s, no safeguard measures put in place. And in the process, the industry started suffering with cheap subsidized imports out of Asia primarily, and they found themselves in a very difficult situation where they could not compete. So the government is now looking at it again, and they're looking at creating jobs, and this being the only industry where it's a long supply chain, and this supply chain can employ thousands of people. And so they're actually looking at reviving the cotton industry in Kenya. In fact, they put seed money aside, and they've got this whole Cotton Development Authority that has come up now, and they're trying to see how they can benefit from the supply chain, the value chain. Of course, we have immense opportunities under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, duty-free, quota-free market access to the US, similar situation with the EU, and of course within COMESA.
Yeah.
So it's really the only industry, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, that can employ thousands of people.
What's being seen as a priority when you're looking at this revival strategy that's in the pipeline? What are the top 3 ranking priorities to get the sector on its feet and up and running with the potential that it has to strike moving forward?
Well, the number 1 priority is to, of course, get the cotton production increased, because we're running on a very low capacity. The mills in Kenya are primarily importing from their neighboring countries, Uganda and Tanzania, to keep them afloat. So the first and foremost thing is in the far end of the supply chain, cotton production needs to be enhanced. Fortunately for us, the world prices are at the moment on a high, and I think land normally competes with other cash crops, and in this particular case, because cotton doesn't need very arable land, it can do with semi-arid and arid land as well, which Kenya has plenty of. So I think the priorities have changed. So that is one area, the cotton production side. On the other side is the cost of doing business in terms of costs. I mean, we have to be competitive to compete with competitors primarily out of Asia. So there are costs such as energy, logistics, infrastructure, which the government is addressing. And I just came out with a meeting with the Prime Minister this morning, and they're coming up with a whole incentive package for the industry to thrive and get back its glory. The last thing is the productivity index and the productivity issues, which is the far end of the supply chain, which is now garment manufacturing. Now that is where thousands of people are employed. On that side as well, we're looking at changing the paradigm, moving away from fixed salaries and taking them into productivity-driven salaries on piece rate. So these are the options on the table, and I think the government is very positively looking at it.
Well, with these ambitions, target markets have to be clearly in the spotlight. How much of your target market is home-based, and how much is outside of Kenya's borders?
Well, to the home base, I mean, we must endorse the fact that Kenya is now part of the East African community, which is a 126 million market. That's Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. So at our doorstep, we are under the East African Customs Union. We have duty-free market access to all these countries, and it's no longer considered export from January 1, 2010. So we have a potential home market, which is 126 million, vis-a-vis what it used to be last year, which was only 42 million people, which is Kenya. And then if you look at the other market opportunity that we have is the COMESA market, which is about 400 million people. Under the free trade agreement, we have a duty-free market access into all the COMESA countries, Zambia, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Madagascar, Mauritius, Egypt. So all the countries that have endorsed the free trade agreement, the FTA, we benefit from that market access. Then thirdly, we have the US market, which is 300 million people. And we're duty-free, quota-free. The duty into America from Asia is 16 to 32%. From Kenya under AGOA is duty-free. And then a similar size market in Europe, another 300 million, which is also duty-free for us. But the competitive advantage to Europe is reduced in the form that the tariff levels are lower. So the duty into Europe is 8 to 14% minimum to maximum in the clothing business. So our competitive advantage as compared to our Asian competitors would be 18 to 14%.
Just in terms of marketing, before we go, I mean, we know that tea players in the country have benefited enormously from marketing campaigns boosting the quality Kenyan tea that we see. Should we be expecting the same kind of thing and investment into this space as well on that front?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we're coming up with a Brand Africa, Origin Africa, Profile Africa initiative. Later on this afternoon, the African Cotton Textile Industries Federation's AGM will come to a conclusion, and we're going to close it with the launch of a new brand, Origin Africa. And we're actually showcasing the entire region, not only Kenya. Yeah. We're looking at Ethiopian manufacturers, Tanzanian manufacturers, other manufacturers. There are 5 African countries that we're going to profile. We're actually going to take them to the catwalk in Europe and US and actually show 100% a value chain that's been 100% captured in the region. I mean, it could be grown in Uganda, cotton, for example, or spun in Kenya, garmented in Mauritius, but it's an African supply chain, and that's the value proposition that we want to take out to the global arena.